Hi, welcome back to Fluency Forward'25, the podcast series conducted by the Advanced English Skills Improvement Unit of Royal College.
Our series aims to enhance understanding of the writing and editing process, promote advanced English language skills, and foster a thriving community of learners and professionals. As our special guest today, we have Mr. Sasanka Dias, former news anchor, speaker, branding and communications consultant, and author of one-of-a-kind personal brand, who has made significant contributions to this field. So thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you for having me, Kiran. It's great to be here.
To kick things off, can you share with us your journey into the world of writing and journalism, sir?
Well, I started my journey in 1999 when I was a 12-year-old kid, joining the media unit of Isipatana College. That's my alma mater, right? And from the day I joined, it was gathering information, speaking to teachers, and getting the notes down, developing our own stories, and handing it over to the guys who present, so on and so forth. So then in 2001, I started speaking in front of a microphone. That's how the journey started of speaking. And it continued until about 2006. And then I joined Independent Television Network as a news anchor. So that was during the wartime in Sri Lanka. And there was a lot of training involved during our journey when we were trainees. And we trained by ourselves. We worked very hard to improve our voices and train the voices, so on and so forth, because that's required, right? And when you really look at the grooming we got during that era is absolutely fantastic, because that has kept us in good stead even now. Right. So when you look back, it's really satisfying, fulfilling, and it's about learning on a daily basis, gathering information, speaking to people. That's what a journalist does, right? So journalism always requires you should have a keen eye, right? You should be tactful, investigative, right? Be on alert. So all these things come into play when you're a journalist. So I was involved in the overall aspect of journalism, from going for reportage, coming back and editing the stories, and presenting on television at the end, right? So it all comes to that. So more importantly, it's teamwork. Because you can't do anything alone. It's not only journalism, but if you take any aspect, entrepreneurship, or even if you do a project in school, right, you can't do it alone. You need people to collaborate, coordinate, communicate. So that's what you take when you go into a national or global level, that exposure which you got back in school. So that's what it is about. So my journey has been from 99 up until now. It's 25 years. So it's quite a long time. But I always feel that I have a long way to go. It's still day one. That's how I feel, because every day I learn something. Maybe consuming content, or maybe talking to a person. Every day, right? Because I was told once by one of the CEOs I worked with. He said, if you go to sleep without learning anything, right, that day is a waste. So it struck me really hard. And when you look back and when I really analyze and think about it now, it is. You need to learn on a daily basis, because every day you have something to learn. So that's what journey is about. My journey in particular relates to that. So I believe in learning and being open-minded. So I should be able to learn from you. Yes, because that's how the world works, Kiran. You cannot be egoistic, right? You cannot be thinking that I know everything. No, I know only a drop, right? There is an ocean of knowledge that I need to get. So the ways I get it matter, right? So because it can be social media, it can be television, maybe radio, or any form of media. So that's what. So this journey is always about learning.
Yes, I agree, sir. So, could you tell us about the role of advanced English language skills in your career and how they've impacted your work, sir?
Impacted immensely, Kiran. I was engaged in elocution during my childhood. So I think from grade 1 to about ordinary level, I was studying elocution, going for exams, and that really helped me when I started anchoring news. Right. So, and then again, even back in school, the knowledge I got from my teachers, the advice, the guidance, that was really helpful. And we used to read books, right? You asked to read books, and even in classrooms, right? You get up and read, and your teacher asks you to read. So these things helped me a lot. So that created the passion for me to become an anchor. So I used to watch TV news when I was 6 or 7. I sit on the floor and watch. And I was thinking to myself, all right, this looks like magic. Those days, right? I'm talking about 20 years ago or maybe 30 years ago, right? So what I want to mention here is that, Kiran, everything starts with a dream, right? So it's about you pursuing it, visualizing it, and believing in yourself that you can do it, right? So coming back to the story, right, I was thinking to myself, okay, what if I can be someone like this one day? That's the thinking I had. And I was just following the dream, and ultimately I was able to do it. Again with failure, right? Independent Television Network was my third attempt, right? Yeah, so because once when I was in school, I got an opportunity to be part of it was called Lamapot. It was a children's news, which was in English medium at Sri Lanka Rupayani Corporation. So they selected students from schools. So I was the only one selected from my school. So I think 5 students from each school. So I got selected from my school. There were 5 Anandians, and a few of them were colleagues with me in my tenure in media, right? And then few from some girls' schools as well. So they're also in the industry now. So that was the grooming we got. And we had a 2-day workshop, which was for life, right? It's just amazing. The content, the guidance, advice, right? Because it was, the workshop was delivered by stalwarts in our industry those days, right? And that guidance and the backing we received, and more importantly, it's about what you have done at your school. Those are your roots. Those are my roots. So I can never forget that I was a member of the media unit of Isipatana College, right? And these things, that exposure helped me develop my English language skills. And I always give credit or gratitude to my mother, because she was the one who persuaded me to read. So when I was 14 or 15, right, I was just roaming around and, not doing anything. And she used to say, "Why are you like this? Start reading your books." So those days I was thinking, it was like, okay, like a menace at times. But now I realize, right, that is the foundation for what I'm doing now, right? I'm requesting, I'm persuading others, right? Maybe people like you, students like you, many generations to come. I'm persuading them to read and gain your knowledge. So my foundation was that. So all these things helped develop my English language skills.
So from your point of view, do you have any advice for our listeners aspiring to enhance their English language skills? So what practices or resources would you recommend?
So one resource, this is a credible resource. I think most of our listeners would agree with me, are TED Talks. I used to watch a lot of TED Talks, and I still do. Because you not only learn the language, you learn presentation, you learn improvisation, a bit of act, that you do on stage, right? Your delivery, articulation, right? So all these things matter. So TED Talks help you learn the entire package, right? So I recommend TED Talks to all the listeners, audio listeners, because that helped me, right? And on a daily basis, if you really use social media properly, right? Properly, I'm repeating it because it's an ocean of knowledge. It's a world of knowledge. The problem is, I don't know, you use it in a different way, right? How many people use social media to benefit, to serve the world, right? Why don't we look at it in that angle, that perspective, right? So one resource is TED Talks. Podcasts, right? I'm a podcast buff, right? Even on YouTube or maybe Spotify. This podcast is on Spotify, right? So likewise. So these are learning resources. So I'll just recommend this as well. So there is an app called Castbox, right? So just a recommendation to your listeners. So Castbox is a great app on podcasting, right? On podcasting. So it's like a search engine of podcasts. So you can type a keyword and you get all the podcasts in the world related to that keyword. So you can subscribe and start listening. So that's what it is about. So podcasting, YouTube videos, TED Talks, right? And speaking to people, right? When you meet people, right? They have different perspectives on various aspects, right? The way they speak, the ideas. So you learn from that as well. So it's not only the language, but the other background aspects that you require to become this communicator, the globally accepted communicator that you're aspiring to become, right? So that's what it is about. So English language is a must. I'm telling you, because the knowledge is available in English. If you want to self-study, right? If you want to explore more, if you're curious, knowledge is available in English, right? So TED Talks, I'll just recap, podcasts, and speaking to people. You learn from that as well. You learn new words, right? Sometimes when you're talking to a person, he or she might use a word that you've never heard of. But okay, that's fine, right? You learn that and you start noting it down and you start using it and referring to a dictionary and finding out the definition, how it is being used, right? So on and so forth. So podcast, YouTube videos, TED Talks particularly, and speaking to people.
Well, thank you for your advice, sir. Now, moving on to another important aspect is fostering a community of learners and professionals, which is one of our main goals. Now, how can aspiring writers and journalists build and be part of such a community, sir?
Right. So that's a great question, Kiran. This is through my experience, right? LinkedIn is a great platform to learn, right? There are newsletters. LinkedIn is now more of a platform you can learn and also network.
You identify the
opportunities. Because earlier, so I joined LinkedIn 12 years ago, almost 13, right? So then it was a platform where you can build your personal brand there and start putting out content. People still do that. But comparatively, the trend has changed. So now it's more into networking, learning. So LinkedIn newsletters, LinkedIn has live events. So all these things you can learn from, right? So being a part of community is about engaging in content. So social media is about engagement, right?
Yeah.
So when you engage, right, you create a community, you create conversations where a community can engage and develop that conversation. I'm talking about productive conversations, right? Productive conversations, because most of the time, especially in Sri Lanka, you don't see productive conversations. I have to tell this to you frankly, right? Because it's the mindset, right? I always believe, Kiran, your mindset, right? That impact is brought to you, right? By the content you consume. What do you watch on YouTube during your free time? Something like that.
Yeah.
So that helps you or destroys you. There are only two options. Either it helps you or destroys you, right? So you need to make your choice. Whether I want to be destroyed or I want to grow. Be open-minded. See the opportunities. And now if you take globally, since you're into podcasting, right? You see how big podcasts are, right? So The community rallying around these podcasters, and they are massive businesses. Yeah, I'm telling you. But they share knowledge, right? Building community. So as writers or authors or journalists, right, it's very important to engage in these conversations, right? Because opportunities are endless, right? The ways you approach those opportunities, right, are limitless, right? So it's about you being open-minded and seeing that opportunity. It's all about that. So as an author, as a writer, as a journalist, right, you engage in communities, you engage in content, and you develop conversations where others in the community can also chip in with their ideas, right? So through a comment, you might develop another idea where you can go big, right? It might be a global hit. You never know. It's just that you take action. So it's always important to spend time on social media in a productive way, because we're living in an information overload era, and we need to filter what is good for us and what is not good for us, right? So it's very crucial. It's very, very crucial because in one way, right? Social media has detached us from human connections, right? With artificial intelligence coming into play, again, human connections, right, will be beneficial, because you need to deviate, you need to detox, right? There's this great documentary on Netflix, I think our listeners would have watched. It's called Social Dilemma. It's about the addiction to social media. I urge everyone to watch it, because especially youngsters. It shows how addicted you are to social media, right? And then you start thinking, okay, I need to get rid of this. Not 100%, right? You need it, because you have to move on with it. That's part of life. That's part of your life, right? I mean, apart from your laundry and your food or your meals, you do everything from your phone, right? Yeah. From your smartphone, right? Even laundry, you use apps and all that now, but just to say, because when you say it in that way, it's easy to understand, right? That's why I use that analogy. So that's what it is about. You should have a limit. That's why I wanted to get into. So yes, you're building community, but it has to be online, right? And offline as well. That's what I'm talking about. So it's a great question. So building community happens online and physically as well, right? When you get people to meet each other, share ideas, express their views, right? And it might lead to another opportunity you never know, right? So writers, authors, and journalists, right? I urge all of them to connect with people, engage. So LinkedIn is one platform. I think Facebook, this happens in a very big manner, right? You have groups, because there are very productive Facebook groups. So I very rarely go on Facebook, I'm telling you. But I keep in touch with my schoolmates, my classmates, because most of them are overseas. And that's the only way that I can keep in touch with them, or WhatsApp, right? And this is important. These connections are important. This community, building community is absolutely essential. So it's about how you perceive the people you meet, right? And the interactions that you have on social media. Very important, right? Who are you accepting, right? Who are you hanging around with? All these things matter, right? So then again, you engage. You speak to people, you write to people, right? You express your views, share your ideas, right? Then only people will get to know, okay, this is how this guy thinks.
Yeah.
He looks like a different thinker, right? All these come through comments or your posts, your content, right? What is content? Documenting your life, right? Content is documenting your daily life, right? And also, I'm telling you, human beings are the only living beings on the planet, right? Who can write, right? Only living beings, right? Birds can't write, birds can sing, but they can't write, right? So, but for us, we have that amazing, it's a magical ability, writing, right? It takes you can do wonders with it. It transcends from continent to continent and you meet people, right? So LinkedIn and all these social media platforms give you that access to the world. So why don't we use it, right? So it's about building community. You use the right word. It's about building community. And this is how you engage and build that community. Social media, yes, you can't take it away.
Yes.
You cannot. But you should have a limit.
Yeah.
Where should I get rid of it and connect with nature on a daily basis? Because otherwise it's very tough. Because increasingly people work remotely. Even if you're a writer, author, or journalist for a media outlet overseas and you're working from Sri Lanka, right? It's all remote.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might have to travel, but it's remote work. So you need that balance, change of environment. All these things matter. So building community, once again, is online and offline both, right? That's my answer.
I see, sir. So my next question is, what challenges do you think the writing and journalism industries currently face, and how can how can emerging professionals navigate these challenges?
I have experienced this recently through a few of my friends who run creative agencies, who are into communication but in a different aspect, right? Advertising or many of the marketing aspects, right? So one thing is you need to understand when you're given a tool, right? You're given a tool, you should not depend on the tool 100%. It's a tool, right? And if you use ChatGPT or maybe Copilot or all these AI tools, right? Use it, right? But add your version to it, because you're not a parrot. You have a vocabulary, right? Add that and blend it with both. Because otherwise, it can be plagiarism. Because you copy and paste. What's the point, right? Yes, there is a tool. It saves your time. But it doesn't say that you need to depend on it 100%. It's a tool. Artificial intelligence, AI, is a tool, right? How many times have you used AI on a daily basis, right? For your podcast post-production, you must be using AI.
Yes.
So it's a tool. You don't depend on it 100%, do you? No, right? So that's what it is, Kiran. So this is what writers, authors, journalists need to understand. It's a tool. Using AI, no harm, right? If you use it in the right way. And you gain knowledge, right? So you have different AI tools and you use it as a blend, a mix of tools. And you get different perspectives from those tools, right? There are great tools, but it's a tool, right? You need to understand that. So, because I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends recently, and he runs a creative agency. He was telling me some of the copywriters, right, they use ChatGPT, right? And they just copy and paste it. And the clients figure out, and you're done and dusted, right? When a client figures out that you have used ChatGPT from A to Z, you're done. I mean, you might lose your job even. So I'm just giving you these examples, right? Because your audience is writers. Now this conversation is focused towards writers, authors, and journalists. And they are very responsible citizens, because people get to know information through what they write. So it has to be credible, right? You have to always double check before you release, right? Before you release. So because it's credibility and responsibility, right? Responsibility is a very powerful and important word. Journalism is responsibility. You cannot, right? You can't go live, right? Just go live and talk whatever you want. No, you need to prepare. You need to think, okay, how would people perceive after I finish my performance or conversation, right? In writing it's the same. You need to think once, twice, thrice, or how many times before you click post or publish. These are very critical aspects. So it's all about using tools, right? And understanding that this is a tool I'm using. It's a tool. 100%, you cannot depend on it. You use it and add your words and develop it into a different version, right? When the human element comes into play, right? The human mind, right? It's an amazing thing. You can do wonders, right? Humans have created, we have living examples, right? Across the world and even in Sri Lanka, right? So that's what it is about. Use a tool as a tool, right? And you add your version. So that's my take.
So my last question for today, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are eager to embark on their writing and journalism journeys?
Yes, so I really believe in hard work. There's no alternative to that, right? No alternative. But as a journalist, even as a communicator, the journalist communicates, right? So journalist is also a communicator, right? I'm coming to this word which I mentioned earlier, which is responsibility, right? You're engaged in a job that requires, right, the apex level of responsibility, because you're responsible for each and every word you write, right? Each and every word you utter, right? Before you write, you think. Before you speak, you think, right? Because once it is gone, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
Right? The impact lasts for a long time, right? Right?
Yeah.
So words of wisdom, I would say this is more of a learning, right? There's something which I saw very recently on Facebook, right? It said, don't chase butterflies. Mend your garden, right? Butterflies will come, right? So why I mention this? So when you really work on yourself as a journalist, right? That is the hard work you put in, the amount of time you invest to learn, the amount of time you invest to investigate, explore, right? Because ultimately, as a writer, author, journalist, communicator, it's about curiosity, right? You should be curious to know something that the world is waiting to hear.
Yeah.
And you find about it, you search, you research, and you put it out, right? Journalists can do wonders, Kiran. Writers can do wonders with their mindset, the creativity, right? And I always think with writers, authors, journalists should spend a lot of time in nature. You connect with nature, right? That's where you become extremely creative, right? Extremely creative, right? So it's about being an influence, right? I wrote this statement for myself, right? Just for myself, because I used to post quotes when I started posting content on social media. Initially, what I did was posting quotes mentioned by others. Right? Then again, I was thinking, okay, now I should write something on my own, right? Write something on my own, right? And I wrote, be an influencer, right? Not an influencer, right? So you need to be influential. To be influential, you have to be a great communicator, right? So, and all these aspects, the charisma you bring in, right? And your delivery, the way you speak, your identity. Every author, writer, journalist, communicator, right, has an identity. You have to be yourself. You have to be yourself, right? And especially for writer, author, journalist, right? Language matters. You need to use proper language. Because when I was an anchor, when I was a trainee to become a news anchor, right? We were asked to read the editorial. Why? We learn words from the editorial, figure of speech, right? Sentence structures. That's why we were asked to read the editorial. So you need to be absolutely knowledgeable about these aspects, because people learn from you. Writers, authors, journalists, communicators, because they look up to you. That happens, right? So my recommendation, so my last few words, I won't call this advice, but right? I do call this advice, maybe guidance. You can take it as a statement, right? Always think as much as you can before you release content. This is relevant to a writer, author, journalist, or any communicator. Check the credibility of the information you receive, right? Now in Finland, right? I saw this in a news report. I think these kids were about 11 years, right? They teach in school, so that's their curriculum, right? How to identify fake news. That is taught in school, Kiran, right? So it's progressive. So we hope that our education system would also one day get into that, because education matters, right? Education can change the world, right? So one thing is this. This is a very famous quote, so I'll use it as a statement, and it will be very useful for your audience, for writers, authors, journalists, right? Formal education, right, can make you a living, but self-education, right, can make you a fortune. That's what it is about. That's what it is about, right? You explore, right? You explore more. Curiosity is what you require, and you need to be persevering. You need to be in it. You need to know the game in and out. That's what it is about, right? So I believe that we can contribute. I'm really happy to do that. So which I do now as well. I speak to a lot of school children, and amazing talent, Kiran. I'm telling you, they're just multifaceted. It's just that they need to be guided properly. Proper advice should be given, and more importantly, right, opportunities should be given. That's what it is about. So more importantly, opportunities should be given. So they should be properly guided, proper advice should be given, and also opportunities. Opportunities. Because that's the only place you can apply what you have learned, right? So when I was schooling, they said knowledge is power, right? Not anymore. Now applied knowledge is power. You need to apply what you have learned. It's all about taking action, right? So if you're aspiring to become a writer, author, journalist, communicator, or any personality in the field of media, right? You need to start working right now. It's the amount of effort you put in. It's the amount of effort you put in. The hard work, right? Talking to people, learn from them. How did he do that? Right? We have this very strange mindset when people become successful, right? And they tend to judge. Okay, I don't want to mention names, but very successful people, Sri Lankans, right? They have gone through a journey that is not being appreciated, which has to be appreciated. Why he is there today, right? Because of the things that he did 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's a journey. Right? So why don't you appreciate that? Why don't you look at that? Right? There's no elevator to success. You need to take the stairs. You need to take the stairs, right? And whatever you do it long term. That'll give you results. Have a vision and go for it. That's my take. So last few words what I want to mention is apply your knowledge. You will gain a lot of knowledge, but unless you apply it, right, you cannot create an impact. You cannot be an influence to another community, right? Yeah. So that's what it is. So building that community and serving that community and influencing that community to conquer the world is your legacy. One day you have to leave a legacy and go, right? So identify what your legacy is, right? Because your story, right, will one day bring glory, right? So that's what it is.
So thank you so much for joining with us today and for your words of wisdom. And I'm pretty sure that many of our listeners will be heavily inspired by your words. And so I hope that you would be finally joining with us on another project like this.
Yes, sure. So before that, thank you very much for having me. It was great having this conversation, and I really enjoy contributing in this manner now, right? Because I really enjoy speaking to youngsters, and I appreciate their talent. It's just that they need to work hard and develop it into a skill and do it consistently, right? Consistency is the hardest and is the rarest quality of a human being. Everyone is not consistent, and it's tough. So for you to become consistent, you need to be disciplined. So even if you're schooling right now, practice that discipline in yourself, which will keep you in good stead as you grow as an adult or as a professional, whatever human being or whatever position that you want to hold in the future, whatever you want to do, right? Discipline matters. So thank you very much once again for having me, and it was really good having a conversation with you, Kiran, and I wish you and the team all success. And yes, let's catch up once again. So before that, I just want to mention anyone can connect with me. Just Google my name, Sasanka Dias. So maybe you can connect with me on LinkedIn or any other social media platform, and we'll carry on a conversation there as well. So I'm happy to help anyone who wants to learn something from me. Maybe I can help them through my exposure, through my experience. And I'm happy to do that.
So thank you again for joining with us, sir. And thank you to all the listeners out there for tuning into Fluency Forward'25. So be sure to join us next time for more interesting, inspiring conversations with industry experts. Until then, keep writing, keep learning, and stay inspired. Have a good day.